So we would like to start. Please have your seat. So I'm happy to open the session about the urban revolution, the future design of cities and campuses. We have a list of distinguished speakers, and I'll try here and there talk a little bit about the lab of AI machine learning, where we work closely with transportation data and give you some kind of idea what we are doing. The first guest will be Mr. Assi Shmeltzer. Assi is the chairman of Shlomo Group, probably the Israeli largest automotive solution company with close to $3 billion revenues in 2021. Assi helped us enormously with the Shlomo Group and the Shmeltzer family to open the Smart Institution for Transportation, named by Shlomo Shmeltzer. And I'll tell you a secret. Usually, when you meet a donor, you meet him once or twice, and you have a nice wall sign, and maybe you meet him once a year. But with the Shmeltzer Group, the interaction is actually on a weekly basis. Since they themselves are deeply involved in transportation, we found a very good interaction where they can share insights, they can give us the indication what is the effectiveness of the research, and we did quite a lot of collaborations together, including areas that are far from their business interests. And for that, I want to express my gratitude and thanks for the Shmeltzer Group. I can just share a few examples of research. One of them was during the corona spread and the lockdowns in Israel. We used data of Shmeltzer, anonymous data, of course, and aggregated data, including cellular data from other companies, to model movements within and between neighborhoods of Israel. We could actually see how the lockdowns are effective, and we can actually combine it with epidemiological models to predict future spread. The work was recognized by the Israeli government, and we worked closely with the Ministry of Health and other ministries to indicate in advance where will be the next spread of the viruses. And we were able also to publish it with our colleagues at Stanford due to the support of the Correct Foundation, and Dr. Shapira is sitting with us here to get recognition about the importance of transportation to the spread of the epidemic and how you can use it smartly. Other topics that are related are, for example, autonomous vehicles. We have one such in the campus. We have, again, with the help of the Shmeltzer Institute for Smart Transportation, the ability to fingerprint the behavior of a driver. So, for example, if someone doesn't feel well or maybe spend too much time in the bar, you will get an indication that he drives abnormally. Online predictions of path. So you can actually predict, again, only by GPS data, how vehicles will move. And of course, it's a very relevant to small deliveries, last mile deliveries, and so on. So all these activities, I think that more than 42 projects were funded by this institute. And with that, I would like to congratulate and ask Assi to join us. Thank you very much.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining this session. Minister of Transportation, President of university, Chairman of the Board. It's my pleasure to be here. The Institute for Smart Transportation was formed 4 or 5 years ago when university approached us and said, let's do something together. And the first thing that came to our minds was finding something that would relate to my late father. He passed away 8 years ago. And together with the university, we formed this institute. And this institute is basically taking students, give them scholarships, and make them, help them with their research about transportation and all the related issues that are, go around this huge field of transportation, not just smart transportation, but also logistic transportation and technology. So we are very proud, and we have a very successful team here at the university, a very cooperative one, and actually this institute is growing year by year, and we can actually see some results, and we are very proud of it. And I think, and I'm hoping, and I'm sure that this institute and the students and the professors that we are supporting with scholarships will eventually come up with very successful ideas and solutions. Very briefly on the group, we operate the biggest operational leasing, sales, rent. We have ports, buses, electrification of poles, where the country is going through a huge, massive change of moving from combustion engines to electrification. So we take major part in that. I think that the combination and cooperation that we have alongside with the university can eventually be very fruitful. Israel, and I'm just saying it from where I'm standing, or from the position that I'm dealing day by day. Israel is in the middle of a huge revolution. If I have to kind of make an analysis about where we are as far as transportation compared to Europe or the States, we are around the 90s, okay? And although we are seeing a massive change now, new ports, new railway station, light train, electrification of buses, and I can't even remember so many other developments and new changes in the transportation areas. I think that one of the biggest challenges we have right now is, other than the fact that we have to build those huge projects, is finding the way to combine them together, how we can operate all of them in a synergetic way. So at the end of the day, instead of having 2.5 cars per family, we'll have enough trust to go down to 1 car less. So if we eventually can collaborate and find a synergetic solution for all those means of new transportations that we are building together, I think we will be much more safe and get assurance that we can get rid of at least 1 car and, of course, help the environment and the pollution. I think it's a very interesting era that we are in, and of course the Institute is here to assist and to help. And just last one sentence, I want to thank again the managers of the Institute and the university and the board members for supporting and helping, and wish you good luck with the rest of the convention. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We have a pleasure and the honor to host the leader of the Labour Party, Minister of Transportation and Road Safety, Member Knesset Merav Michaeli. I know the passion of women activity, and I want to tell Merav that in the Institute of Smart Transportation, Dr. Elit Oppenheim had a forum of 100 women that are actively working the area, both as entrepreneurs, researchers, and more can be talked about it later. So, Merav, please join us.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon, everyone. I'm very, very happy to be here. And of course, happy to hear about women being given the chance to do stuff here. It's always great, being known as the #1 feminist in Israel for so long. Whenever I come somewhere, now that I'm a minister, everybody puts women on display. It's like all of a sudden, the tables are filled with women. Maybe they're not as high-ranking, but they are put in the front all of a sudden. So I urge you to take this example and to do the same. Here in this excellent place of the University of Tel Aviv, congratulations, ladies and gentlemen. Congratulations, students, faculty, administration, and of course, supporters and governors, for this amazing, amazing achievement of being named #8 in the world for securing funding for innovation and technology and startups, right up there with Stanford and MIT and Harvard. Congratulations to you. See, when you want to do something, you can. So much to look forward to. This is something I'm very, very proud of. All of our institutions, Hebrew U and the TechKnowledge, and of course Ben Gurion University, are all included in the 40th first institutions in the world that can get funding for their innovation and startups and big, big ideas. Israel is at the forefront of innovation. The brain power that we have here, the originality, thank you. And there's something about the atmosphere in Israel, the familiarity, the informality that sometimes go too far, but has its advantages, and it puts us at the forefront of innovation and technology in the world. Now we have to take it and to use it to create the urban revolution that is so desperately, desperately needed in Israel. As Mr. Shmeltzer rightfully said, transportation in Israel is very much behind. Unfortunately, our systems were neglected for too long, which created this huge congestion and too little alternatives for Israelis to be able to go not only merely geographically from one place to another, but to be able to be given an opportunity in life to get to wherever you want to get to in life. I believe that transportation is freedom of movement in every possible way. And this is why when I came into the Transport and Road Safety Ministry this year, I brought about the new policy, which is overturning the triangle completely, overturning the pyramid, putting the private car at the bottom, and first and foremost, the person, the human being, being able to walk, be it with their legs, hopefully if they are well and can walk, remembering that this is our first and foremost mean of transportation, our legs, and giving people the basic infrastructure to be able to walk from one place to another, even if it is from your car to wherever it is that you need to get to. And of course, for people who need more accessibility, be it on a wheelchair or just a stroller with whoever is inside, and doesn't matter what age they are. After that comes bicycle and other light electric vehicles that if you go around Tel Aviv, you will see plenty of them, and you will see how urgent it is that we find solutions for them to go safely, safe from cars, but also separate from pedestrians who are sometimes, too often, in danger from these vehicles. And after that comes the layer of public transportation, a huge part that is missing in Israel. Everything that was already mentioned here is now in process. A huge addition to the heavy rail in Israel that is a favorite vehicle on Israelis and extremely effective, but we have too little of it. Light rails, which I strongly hope the first one will start operating in Tel Aviv at the end of this year. There's one that's already operating in Jerusalem, and we launched a second line in Jerusalem, and we are now launching more lines that are already underway. We are working on special routes for public transportation that is electric. We are signing agreements with our operators, and we are laying out infrastructure for electric public transportation as fast and as much as we possibly can, because we have to give our part to dealing with the dire climate crisis which we are in the midst of. So we are creating this revolution that is urban and not only urban in Israel, even though for some of you, where you come from, the whole of Israel is like one big city. But for us, we make sure, and that is yet again one of my priorities, to maintain our, how shall I say, not really rural areas, but the ones who are more like countryside, to maintain them and to keep them that way, and not to allow them to be spoiled by too much transportation that will go through them and ruin them. We don't have a lot left, and we need to keep the agriculture that we still have going. So in order to be able to do that, we have to continue investing, not only in our innovation, but also, of course, in our society, and just as importantly, in our relationship in the region. Israel needs to also be a leader in this region, to use transportation as a vehicle to take the region to the future. We used to rely only on common threats with our neighbors. I think it's very clear now that it's not only about threats, it's a lot about common opportunities. With our new partners from the Emirates, from Bahrain, from Morocco, from other places that we hope to be able to push forward soon. With our old allies, Egypt and Jordan, which I am strongly committed to the relationship with them. And hopefully, not too far away from today, with our neighbors, the Palestinians. We should be able to take the region forward together. This is one other thing that transportation needs to serve. In order to take us to those big visions, I stand here not only as the Minister of Transportation, but also as the Chair of Labor. In order to be able to make these visions a reality, we need to take Israel back to the Zionist vision. We need to take Israel back to acting and implementing what we have promised ourselves in our Declaration of Independence, to be a homeland for the Jewish people, to treat everyone equally, every citizen, regardless of religion, race, sex, gender, etc., to constantly work towards a just society and a fair economy with freedom of religion, freedom of culture, freedom of language, and of course, security, genuine security that comes not only from our very good and trusted army and other security organizations, but from political agreements with our neighbors. Some of them were in the past our enemies and are now our closest allies. This is what we need to aspire to reach with the rest of them. Thank you again for having me here. It's a pleasure and an honor. I thank you again for all of your efforts, for pushing forward everything that Israel can and should do and reach. You are seriously and genuinely very, very much appreciated for your partnership and your leadership. Have a great convention, and thank you very, very much.
Thank you to the Minister of Transportation and Road Safety. We heard about micromobility. This is one of the topics that we deal with. Professor Tali, the head of the Institute of Smart Transportation, work with it. It's not only to enable them to work safely, but also how to analyze and plan right the capacity and the availability of those vehicles around the city, which involves quite a lot of data and a lot of optimization and mathematical modeling over those cities. So this is definitely an area that we are working in. And talking about the future cities, I'd like to welcome our third talker is Professor Tali Hatuka, which focus on urban environment and society and urban development and city design. Professor Hatuka has a lot of research and was acknowledged and awards too many to mention here, and we'll be happy to hear more about it. Please join us, Professor Hatuka.
Okay, good afternoon. So I am the head of the Laboratory of Urban Design and Planning Lab at Tel Aviv University. I'm also now heading a new lab at Tau Innovation Lab, which is called IN for Urbanism, and it's going to focus on urban science. But what I wanted to do today is just briefly tell you about the research we have been working over the last decade or so. Where is the clicker? This is the clicker, I guess. Yeah. Okay. So, and this is a project that I've been working on with Professor Irad Ben Joseph from MIT. It's a project that got a lot of support both from MIT, Tel Aviv University, and actually the Ministry of Economy. It's pity that Merav left, because it would be great if they would be involved more. Because as we see, transportation is just one layer. And the real challenge is actually adopting the implication of the fourth industrial revolution. So I'm sure you have been hearing a lot over the last few days about AI, about IoT, about digitization, but all these have consequences both on cities but also on society. And just a month ago, we have published a new industrial urbanism book. Again, it's a culmination of a decade of work. We are very proud of it because it also received great reviews specifically from the special assistant to the President of the United States that actually is focusing on manufacturing and industrial development in cities. So it is the first comprehensive book and analysis of how cities should adapt to the fourth industrial revolution. So what can I tell you about this project? Okay, so why now? So again, we heard also by the previous speakers, why now? We talked about transportation, we talked about densification, but there are lots of other challenges. At the end of the day, many people were not going to have work. The question of labor, the question of climate change, all this is culminating in the context of the urban, and of course, the fourth industrial revolution is an opportunity, as has been mentioned here, but also raise many challenges. So let's, in order to understand this point more clearly, I would like to show you 1.5 minute film that kind of review the process we have done as humankind since the late 18th century till today, and the question the fourth industrial revolution brings to us, the urban planners. So Chaya, could you please start the video? It's enough. Thank you. So for us, the question, as has been raised in the film, is how to bring all these changes together and also to benefit society. So our project over the last decade, and we have been highly involved in Eastern Galilee, in Kiryat Shmona, if you know the process they are going through with the food tech, in Netivot, in other places in the peripheral areas in Israel, where we think actually there is a potential for growth and innovation. So our premises in this project, also in the US, is that we tend to think about industry and economy as separate thing from the spatial and the urban. And we now know the second premise is the question will not be whether growth in manufacturing will occur, but where. And the main problem is that we don't discuss it. This is a huge research gap that happened over the last 2 decades because the paradigm was that we produce knowledge as the startup nation, but also elsewhere in the US, and there are other places where products are being developed and manufactured. This paradigm is being changing, and we have to say this is a huge geopolitical project of the West to reshore some of the industries. So given this context and the aim of stabilizing the economic resiliency of nations in the West, the question is, of course, how to do it. So this is something that we got into the table a decade ago already in the time of Obama. But when we look from historical perspective, there are a few things that history can tell us or teach us. First, if you look at these slides from early 20th century till today, you can still see that even though the tools are changing, and today we work with computers and AI and so forth, the man or the person is still in the center. The second lesson that we can learn from history, that even if in the past 100 years ago, the factory was just a shed where things have been produced in, now many factories and many industries develop complexes that are kind of ecosystem that support also the livability of people. And the last thing, and this is the most important thing, what history teaches, that each revolution really dramatically changed the development of cities. So the first revolution caught cities unprepared, and pollution and everything started in cities. But with the second revolution, we started with zoning, separating industry from the city. This third revolution brought us the industrial park, the autonomous industrial parks outside the cities. But now we realize that this kind of development is not sustainable. It enhanced commuting, it enhanced really huge gaps in the development of regions and cities, and with the densification process, it's just not viable. Climate change, sustainability, and so on are also creating new challenges in maintaining this kind of urban development. Unfortunately, Israel is still in this paradigm, but elsewhere we are seeing new type of developments, a hybrid development of industry coming back to the city, and this is what is expected in the next 2 decades to happen in cities. AI, of course, will support this, but we also have new tools in terms of technology that will support more clean industries in the cities. So the question for us, and this is what the book was very much engaged with, how do we do it? What are the design strategies? What are the regulation? How can we bring the fourth industrial revolution into the city and kind of revive the urban design and urban planning a profession which is a little bit behind. You said the 90s before. I think that in terms of industrial development, it's still in the 60s. But I think changes are happening now, but still we have lots of challenges. First is the conceptual, how we define industry. What does it mean, production or manufacturing? The second is the social, how the public is actually understanding this huge shift. And the spatial, how we kind of reorganize in the city to adjust to these new changes. So there are many strategies. The book is actually mapping and analyzing and also presenting some of the projects we have done in Israel. So I don't have a lot of time to talk about it, but there are 3 key strategies: clustering. So new industries are creating new type of agglomeration, and they need new type of spatial organization. Regenerating, so this is clustering. Clustering could take place in the rural areas, but also in central areas. There is the regeneration of industrial areas, and this is also something that I'm very happy the Ministry of Economy now is developing and embracing. We just finished writing them a policy document, and this is about taking all the old industrial areas and reviving them, including in them different facilities, and to engage and develop them as we develop our residential environments. And of course, many examples from the cutting-edge industrial areas, the hybrid districts that actually integrate living and working. And in the future, we will see many projects like that. This is from Toronto, but we can find these projects like this in London, where light industry is part of the building, located next to train station and other transportation facilities, and it's part of our everyday life. It is much better suiting to the lifestyle. We can actually develop it in a way that will support also the less advantaged groups. So I will say a few more words about it. So open manufacturing, and this is like the key idea of the book, is that the person is in the center. It's not just about the AI or digitization process. In our research, we found that the digitization process really supports the rich and the strong. At the end of the day, we do not want to create two societies, two states, not just in Israel, but elsewhere. So the question is how we put everyone together into the table. And when we look at maps from around the world, and this is, I don't know how much you can see from this map, but all the yellow circles are the places where industry located in various places worldwide. They are parts and integrate, they are part of the cities and are integrated with the living environment. So our task is actually to go there and to see how we can do the same in Israel. So what is going to happen in cities in the future? What do we know about future development? We know that in terms of economy, and COVID actually just enhanced this, we are at the age of globalization. It's not just globalization, the local amenities become really crucial. In terms of geography, we talk about coordination and proximity, so industry, living environment, and type of clusters and similar industries needs to be located next to one another. In terms of society, and this is like our big challenge, community, and how we develop the skills of the society to support all these great inventions that we have in the university and elsewhere. So the triple helix is one of the ideas. I don't know, the triple helix is this exact collaboration that we had today. The public sector, the private sector, and the academy. This has become like the holy grail if we want to be successful. And the last thing, of course, is planning, urban planning, and how we actually need to define and to reinvent the model of the city, creating much more diffused system that support these ideas. So they gave me 10 minutes, so I'm nearly ending my time. But of course, if you look at this diagram, so you have the first, second, third, and fourth revolution, there is no doubt there will be the fifth, right? But right now, we are located at the fourth. In terms of industrial development and city development, we know we are into this integrated hybrid new way of thinking about cities, and we just started. This brings a lot of work to our table, the urban designers and the planners. And as I said, there are lots of pilots conducted in collaboration of our lab with the Ministry of Economy, now also with the Ministry of Interior. So I think there are voices and there are places that are listening, and I'm happy to say, to these progressive ideas. And I will end with this quote, that effective policy or effective design works on the boundaries between dream and reality, linking deep needs and obscure desire to open experience and test. And I see my role as, again, bringing the dreams, bringing the knowledge, and with the collaboration of different ministries and actors, and now with the Tau Innovation Lab, also with big companies testing some of these great ideas. I think that in Israel, just one last sentence, we are starting to think and integrate these ideas into the system, but there is still much to be done. So thank you very much for hosting me. And thank you for my daughter Yasmin that came especially today with me to this session.
So putting the person in the center, as said Professor Hatuka, and Merav Michaeli said transportation is the freedom to move. And these are two sentences that when you think about are not only limited to the physical cities that we are placed in, but also to the digital and the digital ecosystem that we work in, and we spend, huge amount of our lives as it progresses. And this was exactly the focus of the Digital Living project supported by the Correct Foundation. That when we started it, almost 4 years ago, we never anticipated that some of the basic ideas will indeed become so relevant with the spread of coronaviruses. So the idea how to work in a digital organization, how to use digital insights to derive supply chains and so on. All these came really in massive waves when Corona came. And of course, it affected also our lives in the university. And with that, I would like to call the next speaker, which is a PhD student, to hear also from her about her experience, both as an architect and a town planner, and as a student in a university that became suddenly digital. So please welcome Zehavit, Spitzer, Zohar to the podium. Thank you.
Well, good afternoon, everyone, and I'm very honored to be here. I'm actually a master's student. I'm hoping to be a PhD student soon, but I'm doing my master's as we speak. Okay, so what is the future of the campus in an AI-generated environment? My lecture will be of 3 parts. Be set with 3 parts. It's not working. Oh, thank you. So the agenda is going to be of 3 sections. On the first section, I would like to introduce myself and tell you a bit about my resume, my practice as an architect, and my work as a student. And the second part, I will try to explain just a bit about my thesis, which I'm doing gladly with Dr. Irad Blumenfeld-Lieberthal, who takes me hand by hand through all this process. And for the last part, I was asked to elaborate about my idea regarding the future campus. This is not my thesis, but my thesis actually can show me how the future campus, especially after these 2 special, very different years of studying, how can that be making a new future campus for us? So, my life actually works between different strategies. I'm a practicing architect and a partner in Dunsky Zohar Architects. My partner is here, sitting in the crowd. I'm a student for the past 2 years as an alumni of Tel Aviv University. I came back to do my master's degree in here. And I'm also a partner, a design partner at a startup dealing with AI technologies in interior design called Cubic AI. I'm also a proud mother of 2 teenagers who are also there in the crowd. So thank you. So what can you think about when you are approached with the word campus? So a mixed zoning is something we deal with when you design cities. A mixed zoning is a place where you join both industrial, residential, commercial, cultural, all the usages of a city that makes a city. And that needs to be integrated into one space. I will show you some works that we've done in the past few years in our offices. We are urban designers, and we are dealing with new zoning areas. This is the industrial area of Holon, which we gave a new face to. We made it into a mixed zone area using industrial areas, cultural areas such as an opera house, office buildings, residential, commercial. Also, the main metro is going to stop right here. So using this area, which was already just industrial, and creating a new space that is an urban probability for everyone who can use this place. You go through the metro to this circle, and you have commercial, you have residential, you have your office building, and then you can go to the opera. So you can use this center, this new center of the city. The same thing we've done for Ramat HaChayal. Ramat HaChayal has a very huge space near the Yarkon. We've presented office building, residential, hoteling, and also mixed-use purposes. And for Haifa. And then we gave a proposition for the University of Haifa, for the dorms for a mixed-use building. We took this idea of a mixed-use area and integrated it into a vertical whole building, which is different sizes of residential dorms for 1, 2, 3, or 5, or 4 people. And then we have gym, we have lecture rooms, we have a library, we have everything going into the building. And also, people can change the housing if they change their personal status. For example, you can start as a student with a single bedroom, and then if you're a couple, you can upgrade yourself to the next level, which is a 2-bedroom apartment. So you can stay in this community all through the time that you're working, and it works with the city and for the city. We have been also working about the campus of the Central Bank of Israel, renovating the old building and creating the new campus, which is a public building and a public campus. And we have been doing a supervision for the Israeli Ministry of Defense for the biggest campus being built these days in the Negev for the information community. So, my research topic, going to the second part of this lecture, is the implications of AI technologies. How do you implement AI technologies into urban design? And the benefits of urban design are massive. The benefits of AI. Objective analysis. You can do objective survey to any type of land. You can also get numerous generated solutions. You can get swift and accurate optimization, and then from those solutions, you can choose as an architect the best one and develop probably faster and better. So my field is AIA, which is artificial intelligence architecture. And this is implementing, of course, the methods of the AI. So coming to this, trying to understand this in the view of the new campus, I was beginning to think about the campus as a micro city. The campus is a model of the smart city, and you have to think of the campus as having all the materials for a city. It has residential, it has office buildings, it has public buildings, but it mostly have human contact. In the age of online studying, we've seen that we can learn through Zoom. We hardly, in my first year in my master's program, I didn't come to the campus even once. Everything, even seminars, was online. So what would make students get out of their homes and come to campus? What I did in this section was using the methodology that I'm going to do in my research and actually capturing, detecting, and identifying the main structures of the campus. This is Tel Aviv Campus, this is Tel Aviv University Campus, and what we try to do is first understand how the buildings are separated and how they are spread on campus. It's a massive place with a lot of buildings and a lot of connections, but yet you are not connected mainly to the city. Tel Aviv Campus is a city, it's a campus of a university in the city that never sleeps, yet it has the appeal of a suburb when you go inside the campus. So what we want to do is we want to understand how to categorize and formulate the buildings in the campus and understand the types of buildings. What I did was categorizing classrooms, residential buildings, cultural, recreation, and public buildings. Some of them are mixed use within themselves. But then what you need to do is you need to formulate and deduct what kind of buildings are separated from one another, so you can teach the machine how to identify buildings that are not in the right place, that can be moved, that can be used as multi-use objects. When you come to think about the future campus, you have to think about the people who are going to use the campus. So the resources, we have to look at the challenges that are facing the university in the future. I think Professor Hatuka has spoken about this just before me, and she said that one of the biggest challenges is how to make university students appeal to industry, and how to create soft skills that are students that are coming from the industry to the university, like I did after 20 years, and wanting them to give the information back to the industry. I think it's a combination that needs to be done in a collaboration of different types of studying, in groups, in pairs, in what I just decided to call the mind hubs. I think there is a type of building that is missing in campus. It's called a mind hub. It's a vertical structure that embodies all the ideas of multi-zoning in a building. And another thing that is missing in our campuses is a sense of security. Jane Jacobs, in her phenomenal book, The Death and Lives of Great American Cities, said that we need to feel safe in the streets, and we feel safe in the streets when there are eyes on the streets. The campus, as a woman going out of campus at 10 at night, it's very dark. The buildings are secluded, usually deserted after a certain hour. The dorms, which are occupied, are just behind the wall. They are not inside the campus, therefore you cannot feel the presence of people on the streets. So if you take the multi-zoning and the multi-purpose mixed-use theory and do it in campus, you can enlarge the safety inside a campus. Also, we are connected via these wonderful apps. Can we make an app that will reconnect us with the mind? What I'm thinking about is the mind hub, that there will be an app in the university connecting some different researchers. For example, my thesis works with architecture on the one hand, AI and computer learning on the other hand, and I also have a legal consultant regarding regulations of AI. So if I had this app connecting me with researchers from these different types of fields, then we can collaborate in this unique space that can be clear. It doesn't have to be extremely designed. It can be clear. We can only bring different types of minds into this area. It's not my first idea. Great architects all around the world are doing this as we speak. We have Morphosis, Zehavit, now partners, Areta Isuzaki, also BDP, doing amazing, NVRDV, doing amazing campuses with multi-use buildings. That you look at that, it doesn't look like a campus. It's not the traditional campus we know. It's a new, modern technology campus. It's actually a storage room for transportation that transformed into an architecture school. The University of Massachusetts at Amherst has taken this idea of creating a building for all the faculties together. It's a mind hub, working all minds together in one building. It's not a faculty, it's a multi-purpose building. And different types of learning. We need to think differently about the classroom. It's not a traditional classroom, it's not a lecture and audience. It needs to be something more like a community of minds. This is the Singapore University Hub where the students live, work, study, and later on they teach. So this is an idea of combining all of these amazing things together. I hope that the future campus will transform us from a university to a university. Thank you.
So indeed, the university is a small city. I think that later we'll hear more about it from our CEO, mayor of Tel Aviv University City, Mr. Gadi Frank. But really the combination of AI and architecture or city planning is fascinating. I can just share with you that in one of the research we got, information, again, anonymized, 3 million cellular phones in the city of Tel Aviv and other cities in Israel. And we classified the type of movements of the people. Of course, and we named it, by the way. So we had named by Dolly Parton famous movie, 8 to 5, these guys that live at 8 and come back, 9 to 5, yes, but it was 8 in Israel. And we had the Home Sweet Home guys, and we have the students that were, leaving Friday nights to their parents to get some good meal and returned, and we can see that they are active at strange hours sometimes and so on. And based on that, when you aggregate it, you can actually think about grid optimization and facilities in a city, how they can be allocated in a smart way. And if we talk about cities, why won't we ask the next guest, which is from one of the largest cities in the world, New York City, Mr. Eric Gartler. Eric is a good friend of Tel Aviv University. He held leadership roles in business, government, and non-profit sectors, and was also nominated as president and CEO designate of the Empire State Development. And I want also to congratulate Eric. I heard that he's going to receive an honorary doctorate later today. So Eric, please join us.
Well, thank you. It really is a privilege to be on this panel with such other distinguished panelists, so thank you. So, as was just said, I want to take you to another city, just like Tel Aviv, that does not sleep. And I want to talk about, from my experience in both the Bloomberg administration and just leading the New York State's Economic Development Agency, about what's happening in New York between cities and university campuses. But let me give you a little bit of context first. Let's go to some of the macro trends. On the city level, we have seen in the United States explosive population growth. If you go from the last 100 years, the United States has gone from 120 million people to 330 million people. Also, when you think about where people live, in 150 years, it's completely turned around in the United States. In the 1850s, 20% of the population lived in cities. Today, with increased population, we're looking at close to 70% of people living in cities. What does this mean? Cities are geographically constrained. The downtown is the downtown. Proximity is proximity. And as a result, what has happened? You've seen, and you read in the papers, you've seen tension. Not enough affordable housing. The minister talked about transportation issues. It is basic supply and demand economic issues. Let's now turn to university campuses. What is going on? We no longer, as one of the panelists talked about, we no longer live in a manufacturing world. We live in a knowledge economy. It's no longer one-to-one, it's one-to-many. Where is this knowledge economy being advanced? The research and development is being done in university campuses, sometimes in partnership with industry, but universities want to and they need to expand to meet the demands of the knowledge economy. They also want to compete for the best students. The world is competitive. Universities, they understand. It's not a good thing to say, but it's big business. They want the best students to come to them, and to do so, they need the best resources. So universities, too, need to expand beyond their traditional campus. Think about this in New York City. Columbia University was started in 1754, 270 years ago. NYU was started in 1831. So they, too, have a constrained campus, and they want to grow, they need to grow. So how do we think about, is it a zero-sum game, Or how do we think about this that it's a win-win for both the city and the university campus? So let me walk you through a few examples. By the way, how do I move this forward with the green?
Yes.
No, that doesn't work. I don't know. Which one? There we go. Okay, thank you. So here, for example, many of you have been to New York, you've been to Washington Square Park. Look what it used to be. It used to be a parking lot. Cars would park there. Today, it's both an area, an urban park, but it's also where NYU holds its class convocation because there's not enough space. Now, let me take you back. I don't know, you've got the magic trick, I don't, but. Next slide, can you? How do we do it? There we go. So let me take you back 14 years ago. 2008, Great Recession. New York City is particularly affected, financial capital of the world. And so, from a government perspective, and I worked in the Bloomberg administration, we're now dealing with a situation where banks are collapsing, the finance industry is under pressure. Why is that so important to New York? Because 30% of our revenue comes from the finance sector, 10% of our jobs, which means we need to start to think about, and this was Mayor Bloomberg's vision, how do we diversify the economy? How do we make sure that we have a balanced, diversified economic base? And I will tell you, my old agency at city government did research and talked to business, policymakers, the community. They asked them, what is the best way to solve this problem? And the answer was, we create an applied sciences university. And the idea was to use land on Roosevelt Island and $100 million to create an applied sciences university that would transform New York City. And that's what we did. We announced from barren land, empty, to the Cornell Tech campus, a new university in New York, applied science, that would integrate with New York City. And already to date, we have seen dozens of companies that have been built out of the university, leading to many, many jobs. But more importantly, when we did the analysis, we knew that by providing land and $100 million, there would be $30 billion of economic development. Let's now turn to Columbia University. Right now, this is the new Manhattanville campus. Why? Because, as I told you, Columbia University started in 1754, and those who have been to the campus, it's a beautiful campus. You have cobblestone pathways leading to a green campus. It's beautiful, beautiful stone buildings surrounding the campus. And it's the perfect, settled, quiet area surrounded by gates and walls. So Columbia, for many years, was able to have an existence separate, secure from the neighborhood. But again, as we discussed, if the university wanted to expand, it had to expand beyond its borders. But it also needed to think about a different way it would integrate with the neighborhood. So as you can see, in Manhattanville, the new area for Columbia, no more walls, no more gates. It's parkland. And also, notice the buildings are all glass. It was designed specifically to ensure that there was an openness to the new campus, because we knew, and the state and the city and Columbia signed what's called a community benefits agreement to ensure that as Manhattanville expanded, that it would be there for the people in that area who are concerned about losing housing, who are concerned about their jobs. And so, interestingly, the first building, the Jerome Green Center, which houses the Zuckerman Mind, Brain, and Behavior Institute, which was the first building, inside that building, obviously on the top floors, doing innovative, groundbreaking work on the brain, the first floor, there's a rock climbing center. There's a cafeteria. The business school has the same thing. The first floor is open, and they're working with the business community to help them figure out jobs. At the Mind Brain Institute, they bring together young kids, teenagers, minorities, to introduce them to the study of the mind and the brain, because that's how new campuses need to think. Now, let me give you one last example. If you think it's only in large cities like New York, one of the projects that I worked on, one of my priorities when I took over the State Economic Development Agency, and in fact, this came from my many trips to Israel, was to think about how do you spur the partnership between industry and university. Very important. In New York, the SUNY system, State University of New York, has 64 campuses. And it was critical to think about that partnership in a knowledge economy in upstate New York that doesn't have the same resources that you might have in a city like New York City. And so what did we do? One of the things that we did in terms of attracting companies to upstate New York, and here is one of our largest attraction deals, a company called Wolfspeed Cree, which is in the silicon chip carbide manufacturing business. We all know today, we read it in the papers, there's a shortage of chips for cars, for phones. This facility, which just opened up, we started it years ago, just opened up a month ago, will now supply 10 to 15% of all the chips you need in the world for cars. This is being done in upstate New York. But to get it done in a small town like Utica, we needed to rely on the universities. And in fact, what happened is as they were building the plant, we used the SUNY Polytech Institute at Albany to actually do the initial chip manufacturing to help the company think through the research as the company was being built. And now, a little town of Utica, instead of declining like most small towns, is increasing in population. It has become one of the most innovative, tech-central places in all of New York, in a small town called Marcy in Utica. And that's the effect that is being had by universities on cities and vice versa. Obviously, these companies also need the talent. The universities are there training the talent of the 21st century. And here again, you can see how campuses are being transformed to meet the needs of the 21st century. So, bottom line, tachlis, what's the bottom line here? The key is that in today's world, in a world where our problems are more complicated than ever, where we need people having advanced thinking, we need our best minds to solve problems, industry, universities together, and we need to figure out win-win, how do universities, industry, and cities work together to ensure that we're solving the problems of the 21st century. Thank you so much.
So, talking about the 21st century, without further ado, I would like to call the next generation. Shira Livne and Guy Peretz are both architecture students at the David Azrieli School of Architecture. Shira and Guy, please join us.
Hi, I'm Shira. Wait. Thank you. Hi, I'm Shira, a fifth-year architecture student, and I'm really excited to be here and to present you my project. Okay. I'll begin with a short video that will demonstrate the inspiration for my project. Nowadays, we deal with a lot of different issues, whose effect influence our day-to-day lives, the environment, and the quality of our life.
Europe is sweltering through a brutal heat wave. Rain is unrelenting, and look at the force of the wind of these waves.
The state in its worst drought since 1977.
We are told by our meteorology department that the worst of it is yet to come.
With the rising temperature, being outside in public spaces become more and more unbearable. We prefer to stay indoors with the AC on, but this wastes a lot of resources and energy. Through history and nowadays, underground construction has been used as a great solution to avoid the cold weather. Like we see in Toronto, a network of underground connects more than 70 buildings via 30 kilometers of tunnels, walkways, and shopping areas. Also in the underground city of Helsinki, there's many public functions that allows those activities to be accessible all year round, regardless of the weather. And what about Tel Aviv? Tel Aviv is a dynamic, lively, party city that never sleeps, filled with mostly young people. But the average summer day temperature here is above 29 degrees. Building underground can help to avoid the high hot temperature, but also to give more space for public institutions and needs, and a solution for urban density. The video, please. The project site is very central. There's a metro plan nearby, which is shown in red line. The area contains a number of formal public institutions. So the idea of my project is to connect the underground floors within those buildings in order to expand the space and to create intermediate areas. I focused on three main ideas. The first one is to use the ground as a thermal mass, helping to keep cold and reduce heat with an average of 24 degrees. The second one is to create three-dimensional space for continued movement above and under the ground. The last one was to plan facilities for public needs, such as cinema, sports center, bars and restaurants, among other leisure and recreation places. The idea of constant movement is very significant. You can see the spiral structure and the circular shapes representing an experience of movement on the way underground. Before finishing, I would like to thank you all for letting me share my project and ideas with you, which I feel are relevant to our future, whether in Tel Aviv or any other city. Thank you.
So, hi, my name is Guy Peretz, and my final project is about renovation of abandoned industrial areas, namely the Neshe factory. It doesn't work? Should I help? Right. Right. Due to several industrial revolutions, industrial areas have been located in the outskirts of cities, creating a separation between residency areas and industrial areas. Today, in the post-industrial era, many factories, especially traditional industries, left abandoned. The main question in my final project is whether these areas should be destroyed or renovated as a new urban part of the city. I have chosen the Nesher cement factory as a case study for this project, mainly because the factory had an integral role in Israel's history. It was one of the first established factories and strategically allowing Israel to self-manufacture cement for new Israeli settlements. Nesher factory is also an interesting case historically. It was part of Herzl's Zionist vision, as he wrote about it in his book Alt Neuland, and actually the city of Nesher was named after the Nesher factory, established from the first neighborhood of factory workers. Nesher city forms part of a Haifa metropolitan area located in the northern part of Israel. This is the photo of the factory today, and you can see it's completely abandoned. The aerial view shows you the natural environment in which the factory is located in, and really demonstrate the separations of the factory from the urban area. Today, Nesher factory is facing a total demolition, and it is planned to build a high-rise residential neighborhood like everywhere in Israel, without any mention of the Nesher factory history nor the industrial DNA of the city. My project offers to create a new urban area in conjunction with the preservation of the historic factory and connecting between new industries and residents. Additionally, the project aims at linking this new area to the existing ecosystem. So if we look at Nesher, Nesher has an interesting regional context located closely to the Carmel Forest, academic institutions such as Technion and University of Haifa, agricultural areas, and Haifa Industrial Zone. In terms of zoning, you can see that Nesher is really a residential part located on the mountainside, while the factory and the industrial area located in the plain, completely separated. Also, Nesher city has a quite low urban quality with a lack of public programs. My project is divided into three layers of discussion: regional, city, and building. In the regional scale, it's really about connecting new industries and residential with academic institutions. It's clear to see from the map that Nesher region is located among various industrial areas, and you can see all sorts of industrial zones due to the proximity to Haifa's port. After studying the area, I noticed opportunity to connect between food-related factories and agricultural areas. The project designates the old factory area to the food industry. I believe it will suit Nesher area best because the food industry is relatively clean, eco-friendly, and as us humans is easily to relate to as opposed to chemical or metal industries, for example. In the city scale is about really creating a mixed-use area for more diverse spaces and a range of employment opportunities. Here are the buildings you can see here currently exist, and this is the building I suggest of adding to the area in addition to a new road system. You can see in this slide the division between different land uses, such as industrial, public, academic institutions, office and trade, alongside food industry facilities. Creating a combination of various programs such as food tech, biochemistry, and food engineering academic buildings alongside public programs such as food market or edible forest can really attract visitors from other places to be a part of the neighborhood and to watch the food manufacturing process. All these programs connected by the open green areas and pedestrian path. The building level is really about the urban design of things. I believe the approach should be renovate and reuse old industrial buildings to provide them a new purpose. For example, a welding workshop from the historical factory can be adaptively reused to an urban market, or a cement warehouse can become a botanical garden. In addition to, this is in addition to the new constructions, such as housing units that draw some of the architectural values from the old factory into the new design. And finally, an example of an academic institution whose floor plan is also based on industrial values. Thank you for your listening.
Thank you very much for these fascinating projects. And last but not least, I'd like to invite Gadi Frank, as I said, the mayor of Tel Aviv University City.
Thank you, Irad. So let's just start with checking the clicker. Okay, we'll try again. Okay, so as you understand, I received the most complicated part of this session. Somebody want to guess? Yeah, of course. To be the final barrier between you and the lunch waiting outside. So, over the next few minutes, I will try to give you some insights about the main principles of the physical campus development and the sustainable development goals which were taken into account while planning. As anybody who wanders around campus these days can see, the cranes, tractors, and other signs of new buildings under construction is well noticed. Here you can see the main projects taking place right now: the Lori Loki Graduate School, the Nanotechnology and Quantum Science Abramovich Building, and the Buchmann Law Faculty entrance building that you can see just outside this auditorium. Again? No? Okay. This slide refers to the upcoming projects to begin construction in few months. In the next slide, we will start to understand how these buildings, the Adams Sport Research Center, the Azrieli Architecture School, and the Schuster Center for Traumatic Stress and Resilience are good examples for one of the master plan principles. So the main goal of the campus development master plan, for the next few decades at least, is to double the potential space available for the key function of Tel Aviv University, mainly teaching and research, of course, while emphasizing sustainable development in the spirit of the United Nations SDG Goals. Let's look a little bit closer about the SDG. Almost all of them are relevant to the university as a higher education organization. But even we are talking only about the campus physical development, more than half of these topics are still very relevant. Well-being, clean water, affordable and clean energy, infrastructure for industry and innovation, decrease of inequality within communities, sustainable cities, responsible consumption, and of course, climate change. Let's back to the master plan. So, the first principle is constructing at the outskirts of the campus. This will enable us to build on much more new space without causing the traditional center of the campus to become too crowded. To demonstrate this, we can look at the last slide's building locations. We try the wait. Okay, I just walk. This is the Silvan Adams Sport Institute. This is the Azrieli building, and this is supposed to be the Strauss building. Like you all can see, all of them are at the contour of the campus. The second group of principles refers to the environmental part of the SDG, such as green areas, public transportation, energy and water saving, and I will elaborate about this in a moment. The last part of the presentation will address the physical expression of the SDG principles that are relevant to the cooperation with the advanced industry and the needs to provide affordable housing for our young community. As you can see, the campus master plan intends to increase the green areas and open piazzas of the campus by 40%, mainly by moving the upper parking areas from the center of campus to underground parking lots at the outskirts of the university. The blue dashed areas you can see on the map mark a large underground parking lots that are already exist, built in the last few years. And the red ones indicate for a future potential. In the context of public transportation, we should mention the opening of the new Green Line tram in 2027, and the Metro Blue Line planned to also open in the next decade. Both of them are passing along the west side of the university, having 4 stations near the campus gates. Also, we must mention the Zehavit Rail, the Israeli National Railway Station, in the southeast corner of the campus, which requires an improved accessibility solution for the large height differences between the station and the campus level. We're sure that with the help of the Tel Aviv municipality and the Ministry of Transportation, we will solve this problem in the near future. So, Tel Aviv University is also developing a comprehensive plan for reducing our carbon footprint, including self-production of electricity by using large-scale photovoltaic cells on at least 1/3 of the campus rooftops, and some facilities making bioenergy from organic waste near the campus cafeterias, as well as many other actions. Some of them are mentioned here. Now let's talk a little bit about cooperation with the advanced industries. Currently, there is a world trend of developing technology and science park together with universities. You can find many examples of these in Asia and also in Europe. You can find, Tel Aviv University has a long tradition of successful cooperation with high-tech and biotech industries in Israel, and we think that the next step should be bring some of these companies' R&D divisions to operate physically near campus. In the picture, you can see an illustration of the Advanced Industries Park. We already started to plan with Tel Aviv municipality at the east side of the campus between the university and the Ayalon Highway. This kind of large parks, of course, take many years to execute. So in the meantime, we recently already initiate our first example of nearby cooperation with the local R&D branch of Broadcom that is located at the Samueli Engineering Building. In addition, another building for advanced industries and engineering is in the final design stage. Last but not least, for this chapter of cooperation with the high-tech and biotech industries, I would like to mention the Longevity Center, planned to be an interdisciplinary aging clinical research center. It is based on a cooperation between TAU, Columbia University, and DP World, which is a large private company located in Dubai. As I mentioned before, the SDGs also refer to reducing inequalities within communities. We found this very relevant in the affordable housing part of the campus physical development master plan. We aim to double our dormitory beds in a decade, achieving a goal of 20% of the total student number. This will ensure residential accessibility with an emphasis on Israelis minority groups as well as international students. Thank you very much, and bon appetit.
Okay, everything comes to its end. Thank you very much. Thank you for the distinguished speakers and our board of governors and the Friends of Tel Aviv University. We talked about urban revolution and future cities, but in fact we talked about the future and the freedom to move, the freedom to live, and the freedom to plan. So thank you very much. Have a good lunch. Bye-bye.